Hello and welcome to this video on the football association of Ascension Island. Ascension Island is a small island in the South Atlantic situated almost exactly halfway between Brazil and Africa's west coast. It is 500 kilometers north of any other civilization, which is St. Helens, an island most famous due to its former occupation by infamous French ruler Napoleon. Its population is recorded at 806, with the most of those living in the capital of Georgetown. However, in terms of creating a FIFA-affiliated football team, this is where the first and defining problem lies. Due to the fact that none of these residents are 1. Born on the island, they are all immigrants because the island had no indigenous population before the British rule. And 2. People living on the island do not have the right to abode, which means effectively they are on loan from the British government. This means none of them could therefore declare for the nation after living there for a certain period of time, for example what Diego Costa did when he switched from Brazil to Spain. However, the nation has attempted to compete in the island games in 2013 and 2017, however both times the cost of travel made it unviable. At this point you might be wondering why I'm even bothering to tell you that a small Atlantic island doesn't play football. But that is where you are wrong, because, quite incredibly, on the single football pitch on the entire island, a 6-team league is played out. A useful article gave me the first 3 teams, VC Milan, In-Betweeners, and 2 boats, the latter based in the town home to the worst golf club on earth. However, the last 3 had to go to the depths of the Ascension Island Facebook page to find out. As far as I can tell, the league is called, as you might expect, the Ascension Island League, and the remaining 3 teams are Crystal Rangers, Real Sociedades, and Rasta Rebels. However, using the Facebook page as my source, I also determined that the league stopped in 2015. This left just 2 cup competitions running, the Flippers Cup and the President's Cup, that are not always played each year, but usually one competition and does run this each year. This is all very confusing. After scraping as much information as I could, I decided to make a Football Manager database to see how well they would do in international competitions, and despite the fact the league seems to have stopped, I decided to remake it and see how well the clubs would do in international competitions. I've simmed 11 years into the future till 2013, and there's some interesting findings, so let's get into it. In the 11 years of simulation, the national team played 76 times, winning 4, and giving them a win percent of 5.3%. They also avoided defeat 6 more times, meaning they had lost in total 66 times. They scored in 29 games at a rate of 0.38 goals per game, or once every 237 minutes. Contrastingly, their defence was unsurprisingly leaky, conceding 223 goals, which is an average of just under 3 goals per game. This gives them an overall goal difference of minus 194. Despite this record of conceding, no team racked up double figures against them, with the biggest loss a thumping at the hands of South Sudan 6-0 in the preliminary round of the AFCON qualifiers. South Sudan also beat them the most times, racking up 4 wins, a feat that was matched by 3 other nations, Reunion, Liberia and Burundi. On a more positive note, the team, Ascension Island, had the best record against was Sao Tome and Principe, with 1 win apiece and 2 draws. This makes their fellow Atlantic Islanders take the shameful crown as the only nation not to have a positive record against Ascension. The most goals Ascension scored in a game was 3, in a 3-3 draw with Djibouti, and the furthest they progressed in AFCON was when they made it through the preliminary round and into the first round proper qualifiers in 2027. James Esfer finished with the most international goals, just 3, and Lee Blade racked up 63 caps. Domestically, Crystal Raiders won it the most times, 6, and Rasta Rebels won the cup the most times, 4. In continental competitions, Crystal Raiders made it the furthest in 2027 by winning the Champions League preliminary round, losing in the first round of the Champions League, and then losing in the second round of the Confederations Cup. The finances of the Raiders finished at $422,000 in the bank, begging the question if they could have gone semi-professional. On a final note, the most successful manager was Liam Maria, who was the manager of the most successful side, Crystal Rangers, the whole way through. However, the best manager most certainly is Kenan Hureu, who was the assistant manager at Crystal Raiders before moving to Rasta Rebels. He is the only person in the nation to have a little bit of reputation and probably should be the national team manager with those stats.